autumn, and Europe is rapidly succumbing to the onslaught of Hitler's Blitzkrieg. As country after country falls, one small band of exhausted troops, boys and old men, prepare to defend their city against the mechanised might of the German army. If they fail, Hitler will seize one of his most prized targets, London, the key to success for Hitler's forces if they were going to invade Britain. Of course, we now know that didn't happen. The Germans never crossed the Channel, but for a desperate time at the beginning of World War II, Britain had to prepare for an attack which would have changed the course of history. All around me here on Shooter's Hill lie the hidden remains of those preparations. Pillboxes, anti-tank weapons, massive explosive booby traps. This is archaeology from a time when invasion and a fight to the death were very real prospects right here. And we've got just 3 days to find out what's left of it. Shooter's Hill lies on the main road into London from Kent, essential for any army attacking the city from the south coast of England. Once they reach this high ground, an invading force would have commanding views over the capital, and most of it would be within range of heavy artillery. And the threat of invasion was all too real in 1940. There are still the remains of mysterious concrete bunkers, strange structures and military hardware all over Shooter's Hill. We've been invited here by local archaeologist Andy Brockman, who believes it's time we started to appreciate the archaeology of suburban Britain preparing to fight to the death. Do people around here know what an important place this was in the Second World War?
Some do and some don't. I mean, obviously there's some people have a direct memory of it. Others, there's word of mouth and local folklore. Some have no idea what was going on here. And like where we're walking now, it's a public park and kids play here and people walk their dogs. And yet it was a hive of activity in 1940 to 44, an absolutely crucial part of our history.
Francis, how do you feel about doing a London story?
Oh, I love it, Tony. Absolutely love it. The thing is, Andy's discovered on the top of this hill in South London a microcosm of Second World War archaeology. And the trouble is, like so much of wartime archaeology, it's vanishing. And some of the best evidence has been found on Andy's air photo down there.
What we've got here is it's a 1944 air photograph from the RAF. And if you look just there, that corner of where we're standing now, we think that that's a barrage balloon tether.
What's a barrage balloon tether?
Well, London was ringed with barrage balloons. They were big things. They were filled with gas. They were about the size of a house, so they had terrific lifting power, but at the same time they had heavy steel cables. So if you flew below the barrage balloon, it cut your wings off on these cables. And it had to be anchored to the ground by a socking great lump of concrete. So I think that's what we got out there.
But finding a socking great piece of concrete belonging to a barrage balloon is just the start. Andy's identified all sorts of possible targets over a half-mile stretch of Shooter's Hill.
This area was hit by enemy aircraft bombs.
Before we start, though, we have to be introduced to the very real hazards of excavating World War II sites.
Treat everything that you don't recognise as if it might be ammunition.
The archaeology also needs getting used to. Barrage balloons filled with highly flammable hydrogen gas were massive, but we're looking for their securing points, which are frankly just bits of concrete with iron bars stuck in them. And this isn't the sort of thing geophys are used to looking for. At this cutting edge of archaeology, the rules are still being written.
All I'm seeing is what I would consider to be modern rubbish. To be honest, it's all ferrous iron material, lumps of concrete, reinforced maybe.
But that's the sort of stuff we're looking for.
I know they are.
Well, it looks like we're in the right place then. So we're going to dig a series of test pits to investigate the strongest anomalies on John's geophys to see if that can help us sort out what his results actually show.
I think it can be quite challenging, ain't it, this mine?
It is, isn't it?
Just be mindful that, there might be devices in here.
Well, this is pretty impressive, Andy. Big question is, what is it?
It's a very good question, and the short answer is we don't know.
We're also starting to look at some of the other defences in the area. And a lot of the archaeology on Shooters Hill suggests that they were preparing for something unthinkable today, a fight against a full-scale military invasion of Britain.
Guy, what state was the country in when these defences were built?
It's quite difficult to appreciate that now because, of course, we know that the war would end in 1945 with Britain having won it. In 1940, it's an extremely different situation. Hitler had issued Directive Number 16, which is Operation Sea Lion. This is all the plan for the barges, the invasion process. If this man had succeeded in invading Britain, that would have meant every able-bodied man between the age of 17 and 45 in Britain being carted off to concentration camps and work camps. And then there was the black book of all the notable individuals that the Nazis wanted to wipe out. And these included people like Noel Coward, simply for being homosexual. Writers like George Orwell for ridiculing the Nazis, and H.G. Wells just because he was a socialist. So, I mean, it was a really quite extraordinary and terrifying prospect that Britain faced in 1940.
So did we have any confidence that anything could stop this invasion?
Well, about confidence, they certainly had plans in place, and what the Home Defence Executive decreed under General Ironside was to develop a set of defences, a whole network of what were called stop lines. The whole purpose of these stop lines was to stop invasion forces getting inland, to delay them, to get them off the main roads into flooded ground, into the fields, stop them moving. Now in London, here, there was the outer ring, which is almost equivalent to the M25 now, round the edge here. There was the middle ring here on which Shooters Hill is based. Now this was at the edge of the urban area. And then there's a central core around Whitehall and the Thames there, which was the real heart of government. It's a massive, massive network. And of course, Shooters Hill is only one small part of what is a massive national concept for stopping this invasion.
Most of the stop line installations have been lost or destroyed over the last 70 years. So it's crucial that any surviving examples are properly investigated.
This used to be the garden of Colonel Bagnold, who used to have a big Victorian villa here. Yeah. And the local folklore has it that this was built to be an air raid shelter for his staff. But it doesn't look right to be a domestic air raid shelter. The military people say that this kind of that shape there is there to deflect incoming rounds.
Yeah.
Which says it's military.
So did it have a water supply?
Not that we know of. But if you look back behind us, there's a flange pipe in the ground there.
That one down there.
That's right. And there's others that run off through the woods in that direction. We just don't know what they are. It's another mystery.
Telephone wires going down them.
We know they were laying wires all across the hill here from all the various military installations.
Well, it seems to me we don't know a lot about this, Matt. So if you don't know something, the only thing to do is to dig, isn't it, Matt?
That's the way.
So our second investigation starts over in Oxley's Wood to see if this bunker is an air raid shelter or actually part of one of the London stop lines. At such a recent period of British history, both our sites are presenting our diggers with a number of challenges outside their normal digging experience.
I mean, is it part of it? Is it just snapshot? You can't really tell, can you? Like rusted metal and rusted metal.
The problem is, this is the modern rubbish we normally dig through to get to the Roman or Anglo-Saxon layers underneath.
This is obviously the end. It looks like... I don't know, I think this is lead. Can't help but thinking that it is something electrical.
But it looks very much like a lightning conductor. Where I work, we've got something very similar. It's a 1930s building.
See, it's the thing with it, with this barrage balloon job. You spend all your time thinking about barrage balloons, tethering it to the ground. Yeah. You don't actually think about the minor practicalities of what happens if one gets struck by lightning with all those metal cables coming straight down to the ground.
That's right, that's going to affect the poor chaps on the ground, you know.
I think it's safe to say some of our team are finding this sort of archaeology a bit bewildering. But thankfully, this site has one advantage you don't get on a Roman or Anglo-Saxon dig.
As I recall it, there was no winch on the ground. The winch remained on the lorry, because that's the chap controlled it from there.
Eyewitnesses
when the ladies
who were
took
here when
over,
the structures
it
were
was simple for
investigating
them,
first
because the wax
appeared.
took it. If you see any lumps like that, that's what it was.
Right, so it sounds like we're hitting concrete down there. It could be one of those tether posts.
Could very well be.
Ah, yeah, look. There you go.
Over at the bunker site in Oxley's Wood, what seemed like a straightforward clearance job is now getting much more complicated. Oh, what you got?
Hello. Well, look what we've got. We've got another one of these flange pipes here. There's bits of metal sticking out there. There's something sticking out there.
Hang on, another one? That implies there's another one lurking somewhere.
It's here. Oh, right, yep.
Do you know what they are?
No, we don't. They could be to do with drainage, they could be to do with electrics, they could be to do with sewage, they could be anything.
Matt, can you really apply the same archaeological criteria to a site like this in the way that you could for something Norman or Roman?
Well, I think in some ways you can, because there's no real evidence that these are anything to do with this bunker at all. When we first saw this, I mean, the first question we thought was, is it underneath this mound? In which case it was out of use by the time all this stuff was built up against it.
So you can do relative dating, you can find out what came before and what came after what.
Absolutely, and when we get a section through this, then we can look for dump lines and so on and maybe work out from that whether it was dug by hand, built by hand, or whether they got a digger in to do it, for instance.
So far, we've been dealing with the architecture of war.
Is that a drain there? Yeah, it's a drain. That's why it sounded hollow. Exactly. Yeah.
But we're also now finding evidence of the people who manned these defences.
There we go.
Oh, it's a button here. It's your field, isn't it, Andy?
It certainly is.
What do you reckon on
Oh,
that?
a gunmetal button, typical for British soldiers, normally worn on trousers. In fact, when you put your braces onto it, when you bend over when you're working, they just pop off and they're really irritating.
Fat boy's bottom. And what about that?
Oh, that's nicely shaped bit of brass from a waist belt. That one, nice and broad, probably a First World War type, but could be still being used in the Second World War.
How he knows these things?
Marvel, isn't he? These small fragments of uniform are a reminder of the troops based here on Shooters Hill, men such as the Home Guard veterans who've come along to the site today. And they've got memories of this suburb bristling with weaponry.
And there's another pillbox here.
Another pillbox somewhere here.
Yes.
Including an explosive form of flamethrower, a fugas.
In the front garden of one of these houses was a fugas.
Ah, what, here?
Yes.
Can you remember what the flame fugas looked like? Was it actually inside, so it was disguised in a mound of earth or something like
It
that?
looked like garage doors. You know, how you had a garage which is built into the side of your garden.
Yeah.
Any tanks approaching, the order would come to set that going.
That's right.
Right. So the Germans have no idea that they were going to walk into a flaming mass, effectively.
To see more about Jeff and John's experiences of life during wartime, you can visit the Time Team website. I think there'll be a major redeployment of our troops tomorrow to look at other targets, such as the mysterious fugas, because at the end of day one, we've just about finished work on our first site. That's a pretty impressive piece of rubble, Phil.
It's what we wanted, Tony.
What is it?
It's the anchor point of the balloon. The old 1940s ground surface is right down here. And what they've done is cut a hole in the ground and literally just filled it up with concrete, and then in places they reinforced it with these whacking great bars. And now we've got one, we know what they look like.
Yeah.
We can then extrapolate where all the others are, and from that we can work out where the middle is.
Come on. These satellites are never where you want them.
This discovery in Phil's test pit means we can sort out all the stuff on John's geophysics.
Spray my stick?
Yeah. And plot the location of our barrage balloon, giving us the first element of our picture of wartime Shooters Hill. So it would seem to be job done for this park. Or is it?
We've got Bronze Age.
Bronze Age?
Bronze Age.
And what have we got this Bronze Age?
Well, it's got a huge Bronze Age ditch, and here, this mass of heavy stuff, that is metalworking slag. So we have a Bronze Age metalworking site, maybe even a Bronze Age hill fort on the top of this hill.
That's not very common, is it, to find Bronze Age metalworking?
It's rare as hen's teeth. I'm extremely excited.
Except that it's a Second World War site. What are we going to do now?
Well, you know, I'll have to think and scratch my head, Tony.
Tomorrow. For the moment, we're going to concentrate on the Second World War.
If you'd like to see more episodes like this, you can make it happen. Join over 10,000 Patreon members worldwide and see new digs take place and amazing additional extras.
Beginning of day 2 here on Shooters Hill in London, where we're investigating the Second World War defences. We've got barrage balloons, we've got hidden bunkers, and this being Time Team, we've got what looks like Bronze Age metalworking. So what are we going to do? Move quarter of a mile away and look at something else. Why have you brought us onto Eltham Common?
We've got a spigot mortar.
Have we? Fantastic!
Oh, we have. Oh, yes.
Spigot mortar.
Come on,
you'll like
come
this.
on.
Oh,
there
wow,
it
that
is.
is good.
There's the spigot.
It's funny the things archaeologists get excited about. But this metal pivot would have supported an anti-tank mortar, and as far as Martin and Francis are concerned, it's at the centre of a fascinating complex of structures.
That doesn't sit in isolation, because actually, once you've fired the thing, the Germans coming down the road are going to be a bit cross because you've just whizzed a big bomb at them. So what you're going to have out here will be supporting fire trenches. So while you're doing that, your mates with the Bren guns and the rifles are blazing away as well. And hopefully geophys are going to find evidence of that as well.
So what exactly are we going to do here?
Well, we're going to open a fairly large trench here because we're going to get the trench that surrounded this thing because you fired it down like that, you see.
If it's a nice sort of full-on one, there'll be lockers for the ammunition, actually for the bombs that this thing fires, sort of about where Francis is standing.
I've
Don't
never
jump up and down.
seen two grown men so excited by a spigot.
That is very good.
I think it's very nice.
This mortar site is our third area of investigation on Shooters Hill. We've already established the position of a barrage balloon in Eaglesfield Park, but we're going to leave a full investigation of the prehistoric archaeology here for another time. I'm struck by how it survived for well over 2,000 years, and yet we're dealing with some of the fastest disappearing archaeology in Britain. Stuff that's not even 70 years old. Stuff like the mysterious bunker in Oxley's Wood.
So that one's just going straight down. They're not going anywhere and they're not setting anything, are they?
This could be a private air raid shelter, but we're keen to find out if it had a more important use, as part of London's Stop Line Central, one of the defensive rings around the city designed to thwart a ground invasion by Hitler's troops.
This is the ball that there's a pillbox tacked onto the side of it, disguised as an off-licence.
It makes sense.
Yeah.
And there seems to be evidence of the stop line defences dotted all along this strategic road.
If you look on the side there, can you see the change in the paintwork and the vertical?
It's very distinct, isn't it?
And then the other crucial thing about where we're standing is that we're right at the crest of the hill, so anyone attacking up the hill, the axis of the attack is coming towards us from the east.
Yeah.
And this is just where you put a roadblock to catch vehicles and tanks coming up over the top of the hill as they sort of skyline over there.
We've been told about the disguised pillbox at this pub by veterans of the Home Guard. But it's proving surprisingly difficult to be certain just how many military structures are on the hill. There could be a likely contender across the road from the pub, though, at the entrance to a hospital.
A great concrete wall or plinth.
Yes. The concrete looks fortis, doesn't it? It's that economy concrete.
Yeah.
The problem we've got is that there's no paper trail for it. There's absolutely nothing. But it's the perfect position to support the position over at the ball.
The only way we're going to understand this is to get all this undergrowth off it and have a good look at it.
It could just be an air raid shelter because it's a hospital. It needs an air raid shelter. That would still work.
Right.
Yeah.
So this possible pillbox site next to the hospital becomes our fourth area of investigation. But even with my schoolboy knowledge of the Second World War, I can't help but wonder if all these defences were really necessary. Isn't there something slightly absurd about this notion of German tanks and soldiers marching up Shooters Hill?
No, not at all. This is exactly how Germany had conquered most of Europe, using Blitzkrieg.
What does that mean?
It's lightning warfare, where you charge up main lines of communication so quickly, so powerfully, so abruptly, that everybody just falls away before you.
But we'd already won the Battle of Britain. The skies were ours. Surely a land-based invasion was a fantasy.
Yeah, we know that. They didn't at the time, and things were still really tough. The Blitz was going on. Britain's cities were being bombed. Also, had Hitler's invasion of Russia in the middle of 1941 been the brilliant success that he hoped it would have been, then Germany would have ended up with vast quantities of resources from Central and Eastern Europe at its disposal, making it possible for Germany to mount a colossal and much more successful invasion of Britain than she could ever have thought of before.
So the threat of invasion in those dark days was real and imminent. But we're also getting evidence in our Spigot mortar trench of the daily danger everyone endured from the constant bombing raids.
Is this a piece of shrapnel?
It could well be. It's jaggy in all the sort of right way, because when the bomb or the shell goes off, those things are red hot and they're razor sharp and they're flying through the air, and as they fracture, that's what they look like. So we might have got our first piece of proper battlefield debris.
I never thought that it would actually be this big, and now I know why lots of people get injured by pieces of shrapnel. That's gonna hurt somebody.
Oh, that'll kill you. If that hits you, it'll kill you.
You used to collect bits of shell fragments and things as well?
Yeah.
Shrapnel?
Yeah. It used to come down like rain.
Yes, really.
Our digs now attracted a lot of local interest.
Does anybody know of anything else that we might have missed? Anybody got anything in their gardens or in places that we haven't been yet?
And pointed us in some new, unexpected directions.
There's a super air raid shelter in our garden, and there's a dividing door, and Kevin's got the other side.
Oh, so it goes across both gardens.
Oh
but
yeah,
you've each got
with
your
an
own
adjoining
space.
door.
That sounds amazing. Yeah.
Absolutely.
We've already investigated one bunker, but the sheer size of this new shelter sounds intriguing.
Good grief, I thought you were going to show me some measly little Anderson air raid shelter, but this is enormous.
And once inside, it quickly becomes clear it's unlike anything else we've encountered so far.
The average Anderson shelter was just a little perfunctory shack with a couple of bunks. This has got electrics and everything. I've never seen anything like that.
And look at that. You've got a whole 2 rows of Bakelite plug sockets. You've got light fittings, you've got switches. There's no way that's a normal air raid shelter.
No.
For something this size to have that much electrics, that much lighting, that is very, very unusual.
Well, in that case, how do you explain it?
I can't.
So this is getting pretty loose now, Francis. I think with a bit of a tug, we might be able to get it out of the
Bit of a tug?
ground. Yeah. Here we go. There we go.
Over at our other bunker in the woods, we're at last about to get some answers. These metal pipes have intrigued us for the last day and a half, with theories ranging from garden drainage to conduits for military communication cables.
Look at that. Look, it's a spike. It's not a pipe. So it's a big kind of stake that's been just hammered into the ground, isn't it?
Yeah, but it could never have been, for water or...
Yeah, well, that blows the kind of water service, any kind of service to do with any of these buildings here.
So what are they doing it for?
Well, the first thing that comes to mind is that maybe it was some kind of revetting for all the build up here, all the mound up against this bunker. It could be revetting there and there.
If you had planks running along there, and they would have rotted completely, wouldn't they?
Yeah.
So yeah, I think it's a revetment behind.
Yeah.
That would explain
So
why
we
the
know
tops-
something about this building's construction, but not what it's for. And that means we've got 4 archaeological investigations on the go, including the new one in this sleepy cul-de-sac. This bunker is now officially one of the strangest things we've ever found in a back garden. And it's not just because of its size.
So what you've got there, 3 metres, that's pretty much a square space, isn't it?
Yeah.
The amount of 1940s electrics in it suggests it may have had some organisational or communications role. We now need to get all the military chaps down here to work out what it was built for. And then there's the outside. We're confident this rockery is part of the original bunker construction. And that could fit in with the evidence we have of the military disguising important structures. Why are you poring over a photo of a florist?
It's fooled you, hasn't it? This is a disguised pillbox.
You're kidding.
During World War II, lots of pillboxes were disguised. I mean, we've got florists, we've got bookshop, haystack. I mean, the reason we're looking at these is that we were trying to get some idea of what the disguises were like.
Yeah, it fooled you for about 10 seconds. I now realise quite how daft I was. Surely the Germans wouldn't have been fooled.
But the point is, Tony, in that 10 seconds, they've killed you. It's made you stop and think. And while you're stopping and thinking, that's you're most vulnerable.
But once those 10 seconds were over, the guys in the pillboxes must have been sitting ducks.
That's true in 1940, and the expectation in 1940 was that the Home Guard, if they had any function at all, was to stand in a pillbox and shoot straight for as long as they could survive.
The Home Guard were crucial to the defence of Britain, and most of the defences on the Shooters Hill stop line would have been manned by these volunteers drawn from the ranks of the young, the old and the reserved occupations.
Come on, get it on, we got a war to fight.
Unfortunately, the only volunteers we could muster were Matt and Phil.
These trousers are absolutely enormous.
I ain't got any bracers, I hope my trousers don't fall down. Or to scare the enemy, do we? What? Do your flies up, man! Do your flies up!
Our view of the Home Guard may have been influenced by Dad's army, but the official training manual makes it plain that they had to be prepared to give up everything in the defence of their country, including destroying their own homes if it helped slow down the invaders.
There's a bit in here where it says you can't retire to anywhere safer, that every post has got to be manned to the last man and to the last bullet. So it's absolutely, death or glory stuff.
Well, they know if you get to this point here and there's been a series of stop lines, this is the last one. Once you're at the top of the hill behind you, you're looking down at the capital, that's it. So the government is prepared to do things that before the war were unimaginable.
So using the original 1940 handbook, we're going to put Time Team's own likely lads through basic training. God help us. For the last day and a half, we've been scratching our heads puzzling over this thing. No one knew what it was. Was it to do with air defences, land defences? Was it a copy of something that was originally made in the First World War? Well, now it's been beautifully excavated. Do we know what it is, Francis?
I think we do, Tony. It's taken quite a while. I don't think it was a shelter for, tanks down the hill firing at you. I think it was a shelter from stuff coming out of the sky, but not bombs, I don't think. I think something quite else, don't you, Stuart?
Yeah, it's shrapnel, exploding shells up in there. It's raining shrapnel, and it doesn't look like it now, but you're standing in the grounds of a very large house. There were cottages, workshops and so on in here. People working in this area, and suddenly shells started exploding above them. They want somewhere to get in, to get out of that rain of shrapnel.
Where we are now, we're about 1 kilometre away from a heavy anti-aircraft gun site. Those guns were putting 4 shells in the air at a time, and they're firing multiple shells per minute. All of those shells are exploding because they're designed to explode at a set height where the bombers are. All that metal's going somewhere, and if it doesn't hit a target, it hits the ground.
The shelter was simply built with cement being poured into improvised wooden moulds. And we now know that the steel pipes we found were fashioned into stakes and used as part of a revetment for an earth bank that gave extra protection. For anyone caught in an air raid, this simple structure could mean the difference between life and death.
There you go. But you can see down here on the wall where the wooden plugs have been inserted in, another one there, one there. So there's a horizontal wooden bench along here. So you come inside and then sort of plonk yourself in here.
How long for?
Could be minutes, could be hours. What you've got to remember is every moment you're in here, you're terrified out of your life, because although this will protect you against the shrapnel coming down, it'll protect you against a near miss because of the blast wall at the end of the corridor there. What it won't protect you against is a direct hit, and that could come at any moment, and that'll turn this place into a tomb.
So having decided that this is a civilian shelter, we can now concentrate on the stop line defences on Shooters Hill. And we're beginning to build up a complex picture of how the British would have used this half-mile stretch of road to protect the capital.
It's quite clear that it's a series of overlapping defences. If you lost one bit, then you retreat it to another bit, and so on. It's like a crumple zone in a modern car. You'd have had pillboxes, you have roadblocks, you potentially have even minefields along here, along this bit up here.
What I don't understand is, you could have put a block across the road and they could have just gone down the side roads.
Well, that's partly the intention, actually, because tanks don't really go well down little cul-de-sacs and side roads. They get blocked off. They can't do what they want to do. And if you force them around the houses, through the woods and trees and so on, then they're forced into territory they're not very efficient in the woods, and then you'll be able to machine gun them and so on. The whole tactic is to try and block you and force you into these blockages, really.
Suppose the Germans had managed to cross Shooters Hill.
Then they would have been in big trouble, they really would. If you didn't defend this road coming up onto the hill, you basically would have lost London.
Squad, shut! Keep your eye on what they're doing, because you'll be doing it in a minute.
But the troops manning this strategic route would have been vastly outnumbered by the invading German army.
Let's go through that once more, do you think?
Every shot from their anti-tank weapons had to count. Even if the recoil on the gun was so strong, you needed another member of the troop to hold you down.
God, stone of crows. the earth moved there. God, it was...
I mean, I'd pity a tank or anybody on the receiving end of that.
There's only one small problem. This was developed before the Second World War began. By the time the war actually has been fought, the Germans have up-gunned and up-armoured their tanks. It wouldn't make a hole in it, which is why the Home Guard had this thing.
It's a similar story with this anti-tank mortar, which could be mounted on the spigot in the trench we're digging on Shooters Hill, or used on these portable legs.
Not looking very happy about this.
No. But could this thing go off?
It could do if his finger was on the firing pin and you'd lose your hands.
It had already been rejected by the regular army as being totally ineffective. So it was given to the Home Guard, who would have relied on its mobility to fire off a couple of rounds before retreating to another spigot mortar trench in the area. Or in Phil and Matt's case, simply running away as far as possible.
That'll probably do now, they can't see you.
But they can't shoot at us from here.
That's a good point. They can't see you, you can't see them. You're taken by surprise. Oh, by the way, you've got no bombs. Apart from that, it was brilliant.
God, there's more to this than just a lump of concrete and a spigot, isn't there?
There certainly is, Tony. I mean, I wasn't expecting it to be so well preserved. I mean, you've got the crinkly tin, the corrugated iron revetment around the outside. You've got these metal things that held it all in. We've even got the floor that the blokes stood on when they were working the spigot mortar.
Not only have we got the floor that the guys stood on, we've got the floor that one of them's dog wandered across, because when the concrete was still wet, look down there. You've got in the wet concrete, there's paw prints. It's total war. Everyone's involved.
Now, we can understand what was happening directly around the spigot mortar, but out there, that's crucial. So we've just done the geophys, haven't we?
Yeah,
this is from over here.
Yeah.
Yeah, John brought this down a few minutes ago, and that's behind us. That's the mortar pit, and you've got these two very obvious anomalies here. Those are very, very high magnetic readings. So what John's telling me is he thinks they're more corrugated iron, probably revetting two fire trenches.
So are we going to put a trench in out here?
You bet, Tony. Absolutely.
So in the last few minutes of day 2, we're starting another area of investigation to discover if these anomalies do belong to support trenches for the spigot mortar. We now have just one day left to piece together all the different defences on Shooters Hill, as well as come up with an explanation for the mysterious back garden bunker. But the highlight of tomorrow has got to be Private Harding taking out a German tank on his own, on foot. And by the way, that's the tank.
Who goes there?
Oh, God. Beginning of day 3 here on Shooters Hill on the outskirts of London, where we're looking at the World War II defences that the British threw up in order to try and prevent a German Blitzkrieg. And we've found bunkers and something called a spigot mortar. And day 1 here we found a huge barrage balloon tether, so we closed all the trenches down and we went somewhere else. At least I thought we had. But John Francis, you're still here. Go away.
No, Tony, I'm rooted to the spot. You remember on day 1, as well as the barrage balloon, we also found that rather interesting prehistoric stuff, the Iron Age stuff. So I got John here to do some more geophys just to see where the ditch was going. And while he was doing that, he extended his whole area of survey and found something altogether unexpected.
Something else Iron Age?
No, not at all. Basically, we've got this zigzag trench going through the results, and that's right on the far side, in the trees there.
Do you think it could be part of the World War II defences?
I think it has to be.
So we're going to put a trench in over there?
Oh yes, absolutely.
So our sixth area of investigation into the defences of Shooters Hill will be these possible trenches. And if that wasn't enough, one of the Home Guard veterans has suggested a location for one of the fiercest weapons in the British arsenal, a flame fougasse.
The makeup of it is a quantity of 40-gallon oil drums, which you fill with flammable liquid, petrol, benzene, waste oil, anything you can get your hands on. And then behind it, you place a large explosive charge and then project it towards the enemy.
So a tank coming at this road is going to go straight into a sheet of flame?
Yeah. The thing about it, you don't just leave petrol lying at the side of the road in petrol cans or anything. You've got to disguise it, got to hide it. And this is the absolute perfect place to do it. You've got a bank you can dig and hide the petrol drums in there. It was disguised with garage doors so it couldn't be seen. It's also alongside the main road, where the tanks will be coming up, struggling up this hill, and so as petrol's released, it will flow down the hill and get other tanks down below it.
Stuart's convinced this site fits perfectly into the unique landscape he's investigating. But on the other side of the hill, our potential pillbox is looking much less pillboxy, although it does seem to have something to do with defence.
Reinforced.
Reinforced. Big metal bars.
Yeah.
Right.
So you'd get reinforcement in a roof, but you could also have reinforcement if there was something heavy still on top of something.
You can't tell if there's a void underneath from that?
No.
Well, that's useful to know, just that alone. Are you going to do it all?
Do you want a second opinion?
This is just one of the sites we still need to solve on the last day.
We're a long way underground, aren't we?
We're deep.
Yeah.
This is one of two rooms. We've got a connecting door.
But although it feels like we're constantly learning new information about the very recent past, one site in particular, the back garden bunker disguised as a rockery, has got the experts flummoxed.
This is too much for an air raid shelter.
And the only reason that you might have a door to next door is that if you were thinking about First World War practice with dugouts, you always have two entrances in case one's blocked.
Always.
Yeah. Always.
This is different to the other sites we're investigating. The other defences are aimed at stopping a German attack, but the military guys are beginning to wonder if the garden bunker has got something to do with the most dreaded scenario, the successful Nazi occupation of Britain. What would have happened if the Germans had been successful? What would have happened behind the lines?
Right, well, there's a whole series of preparations for that. We've all heard of the French resistance. There's also the British resistance, the auxiliary forces. These chaps were going to be hidden in cells, little sort of underground bunkers. Their idea was that they'd be expendable suicide squads who would have gone out to assassinate German officers, knock down telegraph poles, blow up railway lines, and they'd probably only live about 2 weeks before they were killed, if they were lucky.
Is there any evidence of those guys on the ground, though?
It's very scattered around the country because, of course, it was deadly secret. So deadly that the men who had recruited these volunteers, unbeknownst to them, were going to be killed by the volunteers in case they gave away the names of the volunteers under torture by the Germans. But there are installations, we've possibly got one round here, nobody really quite understands it, and it may have been linked to this.
Back out on Shooters Hill, the archaeology has hit a brick wall, or more accurately, a bit of prefab wall and a toilet seat. The trench we put in to investigate possible support trenches near the spigot mortar has revealed rubbish pits containing the detritus of prefab homes put up after the war to ease the housing shortage.
Hi Neville, any sign of a slip trench?
Absolutely not, I'm afraid.
And our new trench up near the barrage balloon has been equally disappointing.
What's causing all the geophys noise?
A lot of ironworks come out of here, things like this hinge.
And it's all fairly recent, is it?
Yeah, 19th century.
19th century. I mean, that is the big problem, isn't it, with digging recent sites, because you get all the recent rubbish.
Absolutely.
But we think we've established what was going on beside the hospital.
It's not classically like a pillbox. Pillbox shapes tend to be rectangular or hexagonal. They're enclosed units. This is more of an L shape, and it actually feels more to me like a defended gun position than a pillbox.
An anti-tank gun here covers all the way up the road to the brow of the hill. Anything coming over there, you have got first sight of it. You can get a shot at it. It's about 150 metres. That's absolutely ideal for the period.
But should these anti-tank weapons fail, there was always one last resort. Brave volunteers willing to take on a panzer on foot.
I've got here Tank Hunting and Destruction 1940. That's all yours.
The weapons of choice were white phosphorus smoke grenades and lethal sticky bombs, replaced here by water-filled balloons. And the task for our brave boys was simple. Walk up to a German tank, played here by a camouflaged pre-war Austin, and destroy it, preferably without getting killed.
I'll shout smoke, and you throw your smoke bomb, your phosphorus bomb, from a distance, creates a big cloud of smoke. Then you run in to 15 feet away where you're safe, they can't see you. And then I'll shout stick, you bang your bomb on, then I'll count to 4 and then 5 will be bang, and you have got to run. By the time I've shouted bang, you've got to be far enough away, otherwise I feel it's probably curtains for both of you.
All right, let's do it.
Good luck. Smoke! Oh, brilliant, brilliant. Stick! 1, 2, 3, 4, bang! Oh no, we've lost one.
Oh, I think he copped it.
It was a heroic death, though. But it's more dangerous than I thought, you know.
This exercise with water balloons may seem frankly ludicrous, but the aim of the training was deadly serious, to prepare the Home Guard for a fight to the death. And Stuart's in no doubt that had Britain been invaded, stop lines such as Shooter's Hill would have been turned into places of carnage.
I think we've found the location of one of the particularly important parts of the defence mechanism, and that's a flaming food gas. I mean, had they ignited the one at Shooter's Hill in the position we think one was in, it wouldn't have only enveloped the tank in flame, it would have set the whole woodland opposite afire as well. It would have been a gigantic explosion. But, I mean, rather than describe it, just look at this footage taken at the time.
Wow, that's right across the road.
You wouldn't want to be under the end of that, would you?
No.
It's odd, isn't it? A lot of what we've done over the last couple of days with Phil has seemed quite funny, but actually what we're talking about is ordinary citizens of Shooter's Hill trying to kill as many people as possible.
I'm sure the Home Guard and the people in the army and the Home Guard would rather been home digging their vegetable plots or something, but they knew they had to defend this country. They had seen what happened in the Low Countries. They knew what the Germans were capable of. They would have defended Shooter's Hill to the last man and the last round of ammunition.
That does look more familiar.
Oh yeah, but hasn't it all changed since you saw it last? It's great.
We've finally finished the spigot mortar
lovely
site.
concrete floor, very
and
nicely
Phil,
laid.
now back in civvies, can cast an expert spigot mortar operator's eye
in place
over the finished trench.
What strikes me about this that we didn't get yesterday, yesterday we plonked it down in an open field. This is that you get that aspect of the location of the thing.
Yes.
This is deliberately placed here. It's got a wonderful command of field of the road there.
Yep.
And then presumably if you swing it round, you can command a view through there. Bang, you've got them that way. And not only that, even here, you're just on the break of slope, so you're just slightly hidden, so that when you do come under pressure, you lift it up and you can leg it.
Yeah, well, I've spent a lot of time looking at the pamphlets, at the instructions, at the theory of all this. And what's occurring to me is that it's very different to how they're supposed to be.
Every photograph that I've looked at while we've been doing this is different. And not one of them, of any of those photographs, has got wriggly tin in like this. So why dig these things? Because you look at that and think, yeah, we know what's in there.
This is
no, we don't.
Reminding me a bit of Roman archaeology, isn't it? You know, that you start off in the 19th century and everybody reads up and they say, we know what the Romans did. And then you start digging and it's different.
Totally.
It may just be a concrete plinth, but it represents the final layer of defence for London's stop line central. A vivid image of a people prepared to fight to protect every inch of their country.
It's attrition, it's bit after bit after bit. It's all about defence in depth, one line after another line on top of this hill.
Outnumbered and outgunned, the outcome of invasion would seem bleak. And yet there's a chance that this system of stop lines would have worked.
The Royal Military College at Sandhurst did some war games in 1974 in which they simulated what would happen if the Germans landed in Kent. They could have got through about 3/4 of Kent, only to be stopped by a succession of stop lines at the very outskirts of London. Now, they'd have been here for about 3 weeks, by which time the Royal Navy would have sailed down from its strong base in the Orkneys and would cut off their supply lines, and that would be that. They'd be stranded here, no petrol, no food, and we'd have won.
But the authorities weren't going to take a British victory for granted, and our dig here has got one final surprise for us. It's a rockery.
It is a rockery, absolutely it's a rockery.
We were brought here because of the extensive work of local archaeologist Andy Brockman. And he now believes that this leafy suburban garden could contain one of the rarest examples of Second World War archaeology in Britain, a communication centre for the British resistance.
Whatever's going on here, it's really, really unusual. Nobody knows about it, nobody's admitting to anything about it. It's hidden away in suburbia.
So you're saying it's secret?
There's no paper records that we've been able to find.
Yes, I'm saying yes.
So what were the
With a
guys
big red
doing
stamp.
here?
Is this where they're coordinating defence, or are they coordinating some sort of black ops when the Germans actually do come through?
I think we're pretty sure that this says there's some sort of communications function here.
Yeah.
There's a loom of communication cable coming. This is desk height, you could put a switchboard or something here, or a radio system.
It is extraordinary, isn't it? Because a programme which was really quite sort of objective and measured, as soon as you're in here, it really becomes quite serious and spooky.
Yeah. It's also serious archaeology, because if this is what it could be, then it's nationally important.
It's a bit scary to think of these ordinary parks and roads being turned into a battlefield. And when you consider how many more open spaces and strategic roads there are all over the country, makes you wonder what else might be out there. All of it until recently, sadly neglected. Maybe after the war they just wanted to forget it. But I think it's great that so many archaeological groups are now beginning to realise its importance. It's also good to know that there's something rather more solid than mat and fill to defend us, if ever we're threatened again. Join Time Team on Patreon to access exclusive 3D models, masterclasses and behind-the-scenes insights.